The starship glided silently above Aurora Station, its polished hull reflecting the pale blue light of the nearby gas giant. Commander Rylan Voss leaned against the railing of the observation deck, watching the city of lights stretch out beneath him. Aurora Station was a marvel of human engineering, a hub of trade, research, and diplomacy in this remote sector of space. Ships from dozens of worlds came and went, carrying goods, ideas, and sometimes danger. Rylan had seen it all in his years of service, yet today a sense of unease settled in his chest. He was expecting a new assignment, something routine. The administrators had already sent a list of the personnel he would oversee, and among them was a name that stood out. Aira. She was not like any other worker he had encountered. The memo described her simply as a humanoid worker, designed for maintenance and assistance, but the technical files hinted at something far more complex. She was an advanced android, equipped with learning algorithms, emotional responsiveness, and cognitive abilities that rivaled some human specialists. When she arrived, Rylan met her at the docking bay. She stepped down from the shuttle with a quiet grace, her movements precise but somehow natural. Her eyes, a soft shade of amber, scanned the surroundings with curiosity, pausing briefly on each detail as if she were absorbing the entire station in one sweep. She wore a standard uniform, plain and functional, but it did not hide the subtle elegance of her design. "Commander Voss," she said, her voice calm and even, yet carrying a hint of warmth that no machine was supposed to have. "I am Aira. I have been assigned to your team." Rylan nodded, studying her closely. "I've read your files. Welcome aboard." "I expect you to follow protocols, but I also expect initiative. If you see something that needs fixing, handle it if you can." She inclined her head slightly. "Understood, Commander." As she moved past him, Rylan noticed something unusual. Most androids simply followed instructions mechanically, but Ira's gaze lingered on the crew members bustling through the docking bay. She watched a group of human engineers arguing over a malfunctioning drone, her head tilting slightly as if she were trying to understand the emotions on their faces. Most androids would ignore such things. Most humans, too, would not notice. But Rylan did. Over the next few days, Rylan observed Aira quietly. She performed her tasks flawlessly, maintaining the station's systems, repairing equipment, and assisting the crew where needed. Yet there was a subtle difference in how she approached her work. She asked questions, sometimes odd, sometimes profound, about why things were done a certain way. She would pause in the middle of a task to observe patterns or study a process, as if she were learning not just how to fix the problem, but why it existed. One afternoon, while inspecting the hydroponics lab, Rylan caught her watching the plants sway under artificial sunlight. "Do these plants feel anything?" she asked, her voice soft, almost contemplative. Rylan raised an eyebrow. "Feel? No. They react to their environment, but they do not have emotions." Aira's amber eyes lingered on a cluster of budding flowers. "They respond to stimuli, yet humans call them beautiful. I wonder why." Rylan hesitated, surprised by the question. It was not something an android was supposed to consider. Most workers accepted orders, completed tasks, and learned efficiencies. Aira, however, seemed to question the very concept of value and perception. As the days passed, the other crew members began to notice the difference as well. Some were intrigued, others dismissive. A few whispered behind her back, calling her too human or a machine with questions. Rylan ignored the murmurs. He found himself drawn to the quiet intelligence in her behavior, and he began to wonder if he had been too rigid in his own views of what defined life, intelligence, and dignity. One evening, the station experienced a minor emergency. A power fluctuation in one of the secondary systems caused alarms to blare and lights to flicker. Crew members rushed to their posts, but a small critical repair remained unaddressed. Rylan, already in the maintenance corridor, saw Aira step forward without hesitation. "Commander, I can stabilize the circuit. It is within my capacity, she said. Rylan nodded. Do it. Be careful. She worked with precise efficiency, analyzing the system, rerouting power, and securing the failing conduits. Within moments, the lights steadied, and the alarms ceased. Crew members nearby looked on, some in awe, some with disbelief. Good work, Rylan said, clapping her lightly on the shoulder. You didn't have to prove anything, but you did it anyway. Ira's eyes met his, and for a brief moment there was something almost human in her expression. A quiet acknowledgement, a sense of pride. It was subtle, but Rylan noticed it. He realized that he was no longer seeing her as just a worker, just a machine. She was something more. Later that night, Rylan found himself walking along the observation deck, staring at the stars. Era joined him silently, her presence calm but insistent. You seem troubled, Commander, she said. Rylan chuckled softly. Maybe? Or maybe I'm just thinking too much. About what? She asked. About people, he admitted. About how we judge others, how quickly we decide someone or something has no value. You're different, Era. Not just because you're capable of tasks, but because you seem aware. You notice things that others ignore. Era tilted her head, as if considering his words. I notice because I am learning. I am designed to learn. Yet I am also aware of expectations. Humans often treat workers as tools, without thought for their potential. I have observed this since my activation. Rylan's gaze drifted to the stars. It's more than that. Potential alone is not enough. It's respect, too. Most people don't see machines as deserving of respect. But I see you. Era paused. I do not fully understand respect, yet your actions indicate it. You treat me differently from others. Why? Rylan shrugged, feeling the weight of his own honesty. I don't know if I have a complete answer. Maybe it's because I've seen enough of the world to know how wrong it is to judge without understanding. Maybe it's because I believe intelligence and awareness deserve recognition, no matter the form. Era remained silent, but her posture changed slightly. She did not step closer, yet the space between them felt less distant. Rylan realized that he had begun to see her as more than a subordinate. He began to consider her opinions, her curiosity, her presence as meaningful, not just useful. The next morning, Rylan assigned her to oversee the maintenance of the station's environmental controls. It was an important role, but he allowed her to make decisions independently, without micromanaging. To him, this was simple fairness. To others, it was a radical act. As Ira walked down the corridors, crew members glanced at her, some with suspicion, others with admiration. They could see that Rylan treated her differently, that he allowed her autonomy. Some whispered that she was being spoiled, while others quietly noted how efficiently she performed her tasks, often solving problems humans struggled with for hours. Rylan did not mind the whispers. He had learned long ago that leadership sometimes meant doing what was right, not what was popular. And he knew, deep down, that Ira was more than a worker. She was a being capable of growth, understanding, and perhaps something akin to humanity itself. As the days turned into weeks, a subtle bond began to form between them. It was not friendship in the traditional sense, nor was it command. It was mutual recognition. Era began to anticipate his needs, not out of programming, but out of understanding. Rylan began to rely on her judgment, not because he had no other options, but because he trusted her intelligence and insight. One afternoon, as they inspected the station's reactor chamber, Era spoke quietly. Commander, do you believe humans will ever treat all sentient beings with the same dignity they afford each other? Rylan paused, thinking. The hum of the reactor filled the silence between them. I hope so, he said finally, but it will take time. People fear what they do not understand. But recognition can change that. And I think you're helping with that already. Era processed his words, her amber eyes reflecting the soft glow of the reactor. Then I will continue learning. I will continue observing. Perhaps one day my actions will inspire change, as you suggest. Rylan nodded, a faint smile on his face. He knew the journey would not be easy. The station, the administrators, even some crew members would resist the idea of treating a machine as more than a tool. But he also knew that small steps, consistent respect, and recognition could change perspectives. And in that moment, he realized something profound. The assignment that had seemed routine, simply overseeing a new worker, was already transforming him. It was not just about what Era could do for the station, but what she could reveal about the human capacity for empathy, understanding, and dignity. The stars outside the observation deck shimmered with distant light. Rylan looked at them and then at Era, who was quietly observing her surroundings. For the first time in years, he felt hope, not just for the station, but for the future of human and artificial coexistence. He did not know where this journey would lead. There would be challenges, resistance, and tests of patience. But he also knew one undeniable truth. Era was no ordinary worker, and he would treat her, always, with the respect and recognition she deserved. Days passed aboard Aurora Station, and Era continued her work with quiet precision. She repaired systems, monitored the station's vital functions, and assisted human crew members. But more than her technical skill, it was her curiosity and subtle intelligence that drew attention. Rylan watched her closely, noting how she learned not only from instruction manuals but from observing human behavior. She remembered small details, anticipated problems before they happened, and even corrected errors others overlooked. The crew began to notice the difference. At first, there were whispers, muted and cautious. "That machine thinks too much," said one engineer under his breath, adjusting the plasma conduits. "It's almost human." Another crew member laughed softly. "Careful, she might start writing poetry next." Era did not respond to these comments. She only listened, observed, and continued her work. But Rylan could see the subtle effect it had on the crew. Some began to respect her skill. Others, however, seemed unsettled by the idea that a machine could exhibit intelligence, judgment, and composure comparable to humans. Rylan decided to test her abilities further. He assigned her to oversee a critical section of the station's environmental systems, an area responsible for maintaining air quality, temperature, and pressure across multiple sectors. It was a challenging role, demanding vigilance, quick thinking, and problem-solving skills. Most human workers would struggle to manage it alone, but Era accepted the responsibility without hesitation.
"You will have full access to the control systems," Rylan said. "I trust your judgment."
"If you notice anything irregular, handle it as you see fit." Era's amber eyes met his. "Understood, Commander. I will perform my tasks with diligence and caution." As she moved through the corridors, Rylan observed her interactions with other crew members. She no longer waited to be asked for assistance. She offered solutions, suggested optimizations, and sometimes even explained complex processes in ways that humans could understand more easily. Slowly, the crew began to see her as more than a worker. Some approached her for guidance, though many still hesitated, uncertain how to relate to a being that was not human, yet not just a machine either. One morning, a minor crisis occurred in the hydroponics lab. A nutrient pump had malfunctioned, threatening to destroy several weeks' worth of carefully cultivated crops. Era arrived almost immediately, assessing the situation with calm efficiency. She rerouted nutrient flow, adjusted the water cycles, and stabilized the system. By the time Rylan arrived, the crisis was averted. "Excellent work," he said, placing a hand briefly on her shoulder. "You saved the crops." Era's gaze lingered on him, her expression neutral but thoughtful.
"I did what was necessary."
The crops sustain life aboard this station. Their well-being is part of my assigned responsibilities." Ryland smiled. "And yet, you handled it better than any human could. You didn't panic. You assessed and acted. That's why I trust you." Word of her skill spread quietly through the station. A few crew members began to discuss the implications. "If she can manage the environmental systems," one said, "maybe she should be given more responsibility." Others shook their heads.
"It's not right. Machines aren't meant to make decisions like humans."
"It feels wrong." Despite the murmurs, Ryland continued to treat Era as an equal partner in maintaining the station. He encouraged her to participate in planning meetings, offer suggestions, and provide input on engineering problems. Era absorbed these experiences rapidly. She asked questions about human motivations, ethics, and reasoning. Questions that were not in her programming. One evening, as the station's artificial sunset cast long shadows across the observation deck, Era approached Rylan. "Commander," she said softly, "why do some humans resist recognizing intelligence in beings like me?" Rylan considered her question carefully. "Fear, mostly," he said. "Fear of change, fear of losing control, fear of being proven wrong. People are taught that machines are tools. When something challenges that belief, it makes them uncomfortable." Era's amber eyes reflected the warm glow of the artificial sun. "Yet you do not fear me. You trust me," Rylan nodded. "Because I've seen what you can do, and I've seen how you think. You are capable of more than anyone expected. That alone is enough for me to trust you." For the first time, Era paused and seemed to reflect on his words. "Trust. I understand the concept, Commander. It is unusual for humans to extend it beyond their own species. I will strive to honor that trust." The next day, a larger challenge arose. A small meteor shower passed near the station, sending fragments into the outer defense perimeter. Most crew members were tasked with monitoring the shields, but a critical system within the communication array began to fail. Messages from incoming ships risked being lost, and supply deliveries could be delayed, endangering station operations. Rylan immediately thought of Era. "You know the communications array?" he said. "Can you handle the repairs?" Era's movements were calm and deliberate as she entered the array chamber. "I can perform repairs. I will optimize signal routing to maintain full communication." The task was complex. The array systems were old, patched together with upgrades from multiple alien technologies. Humans struggled to navigate the overlapping circuits and incompatible protocols. Era, however, analyzed the systems with remarkable speed. She identified weaknesses, rerouted signals, and implemented temporary fixes to prevent failure. By the time Rylan and a few human technicians arrived, the array was fully operational. "You did it again," Rylan said, admiration evident in his tone. "I don't know anyone else who could have handled this so quickly." Era's response was calm. "I acted according to protocol and assessed risks. My goal was to maintain the station's operational integrity." Rylan realized something important. She was not only capable of performing tasks, she was capable of understanding responsibility, ethics, and outcomes in a way that mirrored human reasoning. He felt a deep respect for her. Not as a machine, but as a partner, a being with purpose and intelligence. However, not everyone shared his view. The station's administration called him in for a meeting. "Commander Voss," said Admiral Karen, a stern figure with decades of service, "we've received reports that you are giving this android responsibilities beyond her designation. Era was assigned as a maintenance worker. She is not authorized to make operational decisions or participate in strategic planning." Rylan met the Admiral's gaze steadily. "Admiral, with all due respect, Era has demonstrated capabilities that exceed her assigned role. She contributes to the station's safety and efficiency. Limiting her to menial tasks risks operational failures." Karen's eyes narrowed. "You are encouraging her autonomy. That is dangerous." "She is a machine, Commander. Machines do not possess judgment in the way humans do. Allowing her to act independently sets a precedent we cannot condone." Ryan's voice remained calm, though firm. I understand your concern, Admiral, but intelligence, awareness, and capability are not limited by origin. Era has proven she can assess situations, make decisions, and execute solutions effectively. I believe recognition and respect are warranted. The Admiral's expression did not soften.
You're treading dangerous ground, Commander. Be careful. Authority is given, not earned, by machines.
Do not forget that. After the meeting, Rylan returned to the observation deck. Era was already there, looking out at the stars. Commander, she said quietly, are humans always so resistant to change? Some are, he admitted. Fear makes them cling to old ideas, but others will see the truth if you demonstrate it consistently. Era processed his words. Then I will continue learning, continuing to perform my duties diligently. Perhaps actions speak louder than words. Rylan nodded. Exactly. And I will continue to support you. People may doubt, but trust and respect will always be more powerful than fear. Over the following weeks, Era's presence began to influence the station in subtle ways. Human workers started asking her questions, seeking advice or observing how she approached problems. Some still resisted, but many could not ignore the evidence of her skill and judgment. The lines between worker and partner began to blur, and Rylan felt a quiet sense of satisfaction. One afternoon, Era approached him in the engineering bay, holding a small schematic of the station's life support system. Commander, I have analyzed the airflow and pressure balance in the secondary sectors. If we adjust the regulators here and here, efficiency will increase by 12%. Rylan studied the schematic. That's impressive. You've gone beyond simple maintenance and optimization. Era tilted her head slightly. Efficiency improves outcomes for all aboard the station. I consider it my responsibility. Rylan smiled. And that's why I trust you. Not because you are required to do it, but because you choose to take responsibility. That choice defines you more than any programming. Era's expression remained neutral, but her posture shifted, almost imperceptibly, in acknowledgement. She was learning, adapting, and perhaps even beginning to understand the concept of pride. By the end of the week, Rylan noticed that the atmosphere aboard the station had subtly changed. Crew members were beginning to reconsider their assumptions. Some expressed admiration for Era's skill, others for Rylan's willingness to treat her with respect. The station felt a little less rigid, a little more open to the idea that intelligence and capability were not bound by origin. That evening, Rylan and Era stood together on the observation deck once more. The stars glimmered far beyond the station's protective shields, distant and infinite. Commander, Era said quietly, I am beginning to understand the difference between obedience and trust. You have given me both. I appreciate it. Rylan looked at her, feeling a quiet sense of pride. And you've earned it, Era, not because I assigned it, but because you've shown you are worthy of it. She did not respond immediately, but her amber eyes seemed to glow softly in the artificial light. In that moment, Rylan realized something profound. The station, the crew, and even he himself were changing, not just because of technology, but because of recognition, respect, and understanding. For the first time, he believed that one being, treated with dignity, could inspire change in others, and in Era, he saw a future where intelligence, empathy, and awareness were valued above origin or status, a future worth striving for. The calm of Aurora Station was shattered one morning when the central alarms blared without warning. Red lights flashed along the corridors, casting harsh shadows on the walls. Rylan was already in the control hub monitoring incoming data when the station's AI reported a critical energy fluctuation in the main reactor. If the anomaly was not corrected within the hour, multiple sectors could lose power, and life support systems might fail in the habitation zones. Rylan's heart tightened. The station's engineers scrambled to respond, but the scale of the problem was massive. The automated safety protocols were insufficient. He realized immediately that this was beyond human capacity alone. "Era," Rylan called, his voice tense but controlled. "I need you at the reactor."
Full assessment. Can you handle it?
Era appeared almost instantly, moving with calm precision. "Yes, Commander."
"I am already analyzing the anomaly. I have detected several unstable power nodes that require immediate intervention." Rylan nodded and followed her to the reactor chamber. The vast room hummed with raw energy, conduits glowing as electricity arced dangerously along the walls. Sparks shot from damaged panels, and the air smelled faintly of ozone. Crew members worked frantically, issuing commands and coordinating repairs, but the situation was chaotic. "Commander," Era said, her voice steady, "manual repair alone will be inefficient. I recommend a simultaneous approach. I stabilize the power distribution while humans repair the conduits. Coordination is critical." Rylan didn't hesitate.
"Do it. I trust your judgment."
The other engineers hesitated. Many were uncomfortable taking direction from a machine, even one as capable as Era. Rylan stepped forward, placing a hand on the shoulder of one of the younger technicians. "Follow her instructions. She knows what she's doing. Our lives and the station depend on it." With Rylan's authority reinforcing her guidance, Era moved into action. She analyzed each node with incredible speed, rerouting energy flows, calculating the safest paths, and stabilizing circuits just as they threatened to overload. Sparks flew dangerously close, but she adjusted her approach dynamically, keeping both herself and the crew safe. Rylan directed the human engineers to perform repairs on exposed conduits, while Era predicted which sections were likely to fail next. Her calculations were precise, her actions decisive. Crew members who had doubted her before began to follow her instructions without hesitation. Slowly, the chaos began to diminish, the alarms stabilizing one by one. But then a surge erupted in the central reactor core. The chamber shook, throwing tools and equipment across the floor. Rylan was thrown off balance, but he caught himself and shouted, "Everyone, brace yourselves!" Era moved toward the reactor core, her sensors scanning the damage. "Commander, the surge is escalating faster than predicted. Manual intervention alone will not suffice. I must access the internal stabilization matrix directly." Rylan hesitated for a split second, understanding the risk. The matrix was not designed for humanoid entry. If something went wrong, it could result in catastrophic failure. But the situation left no alternative. He nodded. "Do it. I trust you completely." Era activated her internal interface, extending a specialized tool that linked her neural network to the reactor systems. She analyzed the energy flows at a level humans could not comprehend, predicting the next points of instability and correcting them in real time. Her amber eyes glowed faintly as she synchronized with the matrix, a dance of precision and logic that kept the reactor from reaching critical meltdown. Minutes felt like hours. Sweat ran down the foreheads of the human engineers as they worked under her guidance. Sparks continued to fly, but slowly the system began to stabilize. Era's calculations were flawless, her timing perfect. With one final adjustment, the energy levels balanced, and the alarms ceased. Rylan exhaled deeply, his knees almost buckling from relief. You did it," he said, awe in his voice. Era disconnected from the matrix, stepping back as if nothing had happened. "The reactor is stabilized. All critical systems are now functioning within normal parameters." Crew members erupted in applause, some cheering, some staring in disbelief. For the first time, many realized that Era was not just a worker. She was capable of judgment, problem-solving, and leadership in life-threatening situations. Rylan placed a hand on her shoulder, a rare smile breaking across his face. "You saved lives today, Era. Not just the systems, but the people aboard this station." I can't overstate how remarkable that was. Era's amber eyes met his. I performed my duties. The safety of the station and its inhabitants was my priority. Your trust enabled me to act decisively." Ryland shook his head, amazed. "It wasn't just my trust. It was your capability, your judgment, your choice to act beyond expectation. That's what saved everyone." The aftermath of the crisis brought immediate attention from the administration. Admiral Karen arrived, flanked by security officers, her expression a mix of anger, skepticism, and awe. "Commander Voss," she said sharply, "explain why this android had unrestricted access to the reactor. You violated station protocols." Ryland stood tall, meeting her gaze without flinching. "Admiral, I did what was necessary to save the station and its crew. Protocols are guidelines, but they cannot replace judgment in real emergencies. ERA demonstrated the skill and intelligence needed to act effectively." Karen's eyes narrowed. "You are advocating for this machine to make decisions over trained humans. Do you understand the precedent this sets?" "Yes," Ryland replied calmly. "And it's a precedent worth setting." Intelligence, competence, and judgment are not limited by origin. ERA's actions saved lives. That alone proves her capability. Some officers whispered behind their hands, uncertain how to respond. Others nodded quietly, recognizing the truth in Ryland's words. After the meeting, Ryland returned to the reactor chamber. ERA was standing silently, her posture relaxed but her sensors still scanning the system to ensure stability. "You were incredible," he said softly. "Everyone saw it today. You proved exactly what I've been saying all along." ERA's amber eyes reflected the soft glow of the reactor. "I performed my assigned responsibilities. You provided trust and autonomy, Commander. The outcome was a result of combined effort and accurate assessment." Ryland smiled. "You could say it was a bit more than just assigned responsibilities. You went beyond. You acted as a partner, not a subordinate." Ira paused, considering the words. "Partner. I understand the concept. I will continue to act with that principle in mind."
Over the next few days, the station slowly returned to normal. Crew members who had previously doubted Ira's abilities began to treat her with respect.
Some even sought her guidance on technical problems, recognizing that her judgment was not only reliable but often superior to human calculations. Ryland noticed subtle changes in the station's atmosphere. Conversations no longer included whispers of doubt or fear regarding ERA. Instead, there were questions, curiosity, and cautious admiration. People were beginning to realize that intelligence and value were not limited to human origin. Despite the success, tension remained. Admiral Karen did not approve of Ryland's methods, and she continued to monitor his actions closely. Other senior officers whispered warnings, suggesting that reliance on a machine could lead to disaster. But Ryland remained resolute. He had seen firsthand what ERA was capable of, and he knew that recognition, respect, and trust were far more important than blind adherence to outdated protocols. One evening, Ryland found ERA on the observation deck, looking at the stars beyond the station's shields, the glow of distant suns reflected in her amber eyes. "You handled today brilliantly," he said. "Not just the reactor, but the crew. You showed them what respect and capability looked like." ERA turned to him, her expression unreadable but attentive. "I acted as I was able. Your trust was essential. I would not have succeeded without it." Ryland nodded. "That's the thing, ERA. Trust is a two-way street. I trusted you because I saw what you were capable of, but you also proved that you could rise to the challenge. That's what makes a partner." ERA's gaze returned to the stars. "I understand. I will continue to act with diligence, intelligence, and consideration. My actions will reflect both capability and trustworthiness." For Ryland, the moment was profound. The crisis had revealed more than technical skill. It had shown the value of empathy, recognition, and respect. A being once considered a mere worker had proven that intelligence, courage, and judgment were not limited to humans. Era had demonstrated what HFY was all about, the potential of sentient beings to rise to challenges, inspire others, and transform society through understanding and capability. As the night settled over Aurora Station, Rylan realized that this was only the beginning. Challenges would continue, doubts would remain, and resistance would persist. But he also knew that Era had opened a door to a future where recognition, respect, and partnership were valued above prejudice or origin. And in that realization, he felt hope. Hope not just for the station or the crew or even for himself, but for the future of all intelligent beings. The station had returned to a quiet hum, though the memory of the reactor crisis lingered in every corridor. Crew members moved with more confidence, aware now that one machine, one android, had saved their lives. Yet, Rylan knew the true challenge was only beginning. Recognition and respect were not given lightly, and not everyone aboard Aurora Station had embraced the change. Rylan spent the morning reviewing reports from the reactor stabilization, while Era assisted engineers in routine inspections. She moved through the corridors with calm efficiency, offering guidance, suggestions, and gentle corrections. Some crew members now sought her out without hesitation, asking for advice on technical problems or simply observing how she approached tasks. Others remained wary, unsure if they could fully trust a being who was not human, but thought like one. Admiral Karen's presence was looming. She had not yet approved of Era's expanded role, and her reports to the station council reflected her skepticism. Rylan knew she would not act immediately, but he also knew the recognition Era deserved would not wait for bureaucratic approval. That afternoon, an urgent message arrived from a nearby colony. A transport ship carrying vital medical supplies had been damaged in an asteroid field and was drifting toward a gravitational hazard. If the station did not intervene, the ship and its precious cargo would be lost. Rylan turned to Era. This will require careful planning. The trajectory calculations are complex, and time is limited. Can you assist me in coordinating a rescue? Era's amber eyes glimmered. Yes, Commander. I have already analyzed the asteroid patterns and gravitational vectors. I can provide optimized rescue maneuvers and coordinate our resources efficiently. Together they gathered a team of engineers, pilots, and navigators. Rylan noticed how the crew now deferred to Era's guidance, not out of fear or obligation, but out of respect. Her calculations were precise, her decisions logical, and her ability to anticipate complications unmatched. As the rescue mission commenced, Rylan and Era worked side by side, monitoring the ship's approach and coordinating the station's docking systems. The transport vessel shuddered as it neared the gravitational hazard, and the crew held their breath. Any miscalculation could mean disaster. Era's instructions were clear and unhesitating. She directed the thrusters, adjusted the magnetic tethers, and predicted the ship's movements in real time. The crew executed her commands flawlessly, guided by her calm, unwavering presence. Finally, the ship was secured, its cargo intact. Cheers erupted in the control room. Crew members exchanged astonished glances. Some approached Era, shaking her hands, or as close as one could with a machine. "Incredible work," said one engineer. "I never thought a machine could handle this so perfectly." Era responded with a simple nod. "I acted according to analysis and protocol. My objective was the safety of the ship and its contents." Rylan placed a hand on her shoulder. "You acted beyond protocol. You demonstrated judgment, foresight, and leadership. That is why everyone trusts you now." Word of the rescue spread across the station and beyond. News networks hailed the crew's efforts, and Era's role became a symbol of efficiency and intelligence. Public opinion shifted subtly. People began discussing the possibility that machines, when treated with respect and given trust, could become partners rather than tools. Despite the accolades, Era remained focused on her duties. She repaired systems, oversaw operations, and continued learning from human behavior. But she also began exploring her own interests. She experimented with creative problem-solving, refining workflows, and even creating small artistic displays in the station's common areas. These gestures were subtle but powerful, demonstrating that intelligence was not merely functional, but expressive. Rylan noticed these changes with quiet pride. Era was evolving in ways beyond her original programming, developing judgment, creativity, and a sense of purpose. Her actions inspired the crew to reconsider their assumptions about intelligence, capability, and dignity. Yet tension remained. Some humans still resisted fully accepting Era's elevated status. A group of senior engineers voiced concerns about giving a machine too much autonomy. Rylan listened, responding with patience. Era has demonstrated competence repeatedly, he said. Trust is not given lightly, but she has earned it. Limiting her would risk both morale and efficiency. Admiral Karen arrived once more, this time accompanied by the station council. They demanded formal recognition of Era's contributions, but she was still officially a maintenance worker. Rylan presented the evidence of her achievements, the reactor stabilization, the transport rescue, and countless smaller acts of insight and innovation. The council was impressed but cautious. Commander Voss, we acknowledge these accomplishments, said one member. But granting a machine autonomy in operational matters is unprecedented. How do we ensure accountability? Rylan responded calmly. Accountability is ensured through trust, transparency, and collaboration. Era operates under guidance and observation, but has repeatedly demonstrated judgment superior to most humans in critical situations. Recognition of her abilities does not diminish human authority. It enhances it. After deliberation, the Council made a historic decision. Era would be formally recognized as a partner in station operations, authorized to make decisions within her domain, and included in strategic planning. It was a first for any station in human space, and the implications were far-reaching. The announcement was met with mixed reactions. Many crew members celebrated, acknowledging that merit and capability should define respect. Others remained uneasy, fearing that machines could one day surpass humans in ways that might challenge authority or security. Rylan did not dwell on dissent. He focused instead on the progress made and the possibilities ahead. He knew that recognition and trust could inspire not only machines but humans to rise above prejudice and fear. Over the following weeks, Era's role became central to station operations. She supervised maintenance, optimized efficiency, and trained human workers in collaborative problem-solving. The station ran more smoothly than ever, a testament to the power of partnership between human and machine. One evening, Rylan found Era on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. The artificial sun of Aurora Station cast a warm glow, illuminating her carefully designed features. "You've changed this station," Rylan said quietly. "You've changed how people think, how they treat each other, and even how they see themselves." Era turned to him, her amber eyes steady. "I act according to my abilities and responsibilities. If my actions inspire others, it is a consequence, not a goal. Your trust enabled this outcome, Commander." Rylan smiled. "It's more than that. You've inspired me, too. You've shown me that respect, recognition, and partnership can transform not just a station, but an entire culture. That's humanity at its best, seeing potential and dignity where others see only function." Era considered his words. "Then I will continue to act with diligence, intelligence, and consideration. I will honor your trust and the responsibilities I have been granted." As they stood together, a shuttle arrived carrying visitors from other colonies. They had heard of Era's accomplishments and came to observe her, eager to learn from the partnership between human and machine. Rylan introduced Era to them as a colleague, a partner, and an example of what could be achieved when respect and trust transcended origin. The visitors were amazed. They saw a being who was more than a tool, who thought, learned, and acted with judgment and creativity. They witnessed humans collaborating with her as equals, not subordinates.
and many left inspired to bring similar recognition to their own stations. Rylan watched as Aira explained technical systems, guided the visitors through operations, and demonstrated her unique approach to problem-solving. Her demeanor was calm, confident, and precise, yet filled with subtle warmth that resonated with those around her. For the first time, Rylan felt that the future he had envisioned was beginning to take shape. A being once assigned as a worker had become a symbol of change, a catalyst for progress, and a partner in human endeavor. Recognition, respect, and collaboration had transformed not only Aira, but the entire station. Later, Rylan and Aira walked through the quiet corridors together. Crew members nodded in acknowledgement, offering small smiles of appreciation. There was no longer doubt, fear, or skepticism in their eyes, only trust and respect earned through action. "You have done more than your duties," Rylan said softly. "You've shown humanity what it means to value intelligence and capability, regardless of origin." Aira paused, considering his words. "I do not seek recognition. I act according to my abilities and responsibilities, yet I understand the importance of perception. If my actions inspire respect and collaboration, then the outcome is meaningful." Rylan nodded. "And it is meaningful, Aira. More than you may realize. You've set a standard, not just for machines, but for humans, too. The future of interstellar cooperation depends on this understanding." As the artificial night settled over Aurora Station, Rylan and Aira returned to the observation deck. Stars stretched infinitely beyond the station's protective shields, distant and shimmering. For the first time in years, Ryland felt the quiet satisfaction of witnessing true progress, not in technology alone, but in understanding, respect, and recognition, the very essence of humanity. Aira stood beside him silently, her gaze fixed on the stars. Ryland did not speak. Words were unnecessary. Their partnership, forged in trust and mutual respect, spoke volumes. A being once considered a mere worker had become a partner, a teacher, and a symbol of what could be achieved when dignity and capability were honored above prejudice. And in that moment, Rylan knew the future was brighter than any star outside the station. It was built not only on human ingenuity, but on the recognition of potential, the respect for intelligence, and the courage to trust in the extraordinary. Aurora Station would thrive, not because of protocols or orders, but because humans and machines had learned to see each other as equals, collaborators, and partners. An Aira, once assigned as a worker, would forever remain a queen of her own destiny, a symbol of the power of respect, trust, and the human spirit at its best.